guys, John Claymore here. And before we get to this topic of Biden and Putin and Ukraine and why it is I think we're screwed, I want to lay out a bit of a disclaimer here. First and foremost, this video will be going on the main channel, John Claymore. It'll also be going on my secondary channel, Commander 33. Also, I'm going to get some updates about Commander 33 a little bit later on in the week. This video will be released tomorrow, but I got to work Thursday and Friday both. So I'm going to be releasing this video before I head out, probably late in the afternoon tomorrow. Also, something else too. There'll be videos coming out on Saturday and Sunday that I'll be working on Friday night and Saturday afternoon to go ahead and kind of catch up with things. Of course, I've been busy at work. So I haven't been able to do exactly what I've been wanting to do, and I've been a little bit behind on certain topics, but I still feel there's an educational value and a common sense point of view to look at things on each and every topic that needs to be discussed that can always be useful. Something else too is that the real reason for the disclaimer, and I'm coming right back to this, is because this right here is something that I think people need to understand. If we got into an actual land war with Russia, I'm pretty sure we would beat Russia. I'll talk about Russia's military capabilities in a second, but I'm going to talk about why it is I feel that we're screwed either way, regardless of what happens here and over the course of this period in time, because I think China is our real enemy. Now, guys, before we do this, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you guys subscribe. Share the video. Set off in the comment section. Definitely hit the like button for the algorithm. Only about 27% of you guys that watch the content are subscribed. I'm sort of buried back in the algorithm again. This is what happens when you don't post as much. Of course, I've been busy. You guys know that. And, of course, whenever I get an actual period in time when things more stabilize, I'll start to post more often. And let's go ahead and dive into this. So allegedly, Biden got on the phone, or he got on a Zoom call with Vladimir Putin the other day. Now, really quick, Vladimir Putin's a bad guy. Okay, he is. Steve Bannon was talking about this last night on Timcast. By the way, I'll be leaving two separate videos in the actual one, the description box, or probably the Timcast special with Steve Bannon, because he spoke extensively about this, or at least the clips where he spoke about it, because I only spoke about it for about 30 minutes, and I want you guys digging through 2 hours to try to find it. But I also, and by the way, I'm just giving you a different take than him because I think there's some things that were left out, okay, that I think need to be mentioned. Also, something else too. There will be a video from Issachar understanding the times, okay? And I don't want to go Bible prophecy here, but people are going to argue, especially if you know your Bible, you're going to argue Gog and Magog. Of course, I do understand Bible prophecy very, very well, but I'm not going to get into it that much in this video. I'm just going to give you the strategic reasons of why this is the way it is. First and foremost, Russia could have actually been a very, very key ally to the United States. And what's the expression? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Now, obviously, they're not an ally. And, of course, the Obama administration didn't make things better. The Bush administration didn't make things better. Trump at least tried. But I think at the end of the day, Russia may have been put into a situation where they're looking at India, they're looking at China, and they're saying to themselves, do we really and truly want to, with a country that encompasses 12 time zones, that's exactly how big Russia is, do we want to have our military spread out all over the place to contest borders? Apparently, they've decided now to go the way of China because they feel it's more convenient at this point in time when we have a weak leader in office, that person being Joe Biden, to join with them, which, by the way, creates a problem for India and it creates a problem for the Middle East, especially our ally like Israel. Of course, Biden has got us back talking to Saudi Arabia about oil instead of making us energy independent, which, by the way, oil is very, very important in this topic. Now, guys, I'll be doing more videos in the future that are more extensive on this topic of Russia and why it is the way they are, but I'm going to give you a bit of a preview of that now. Russia wants the Ukraine because if you guys ever see the actual continent of Russia, you'll notice there's a lot of rivers. But the oceans, of course, are the Arctic and the Northern Pacific. Russia also, by the way, has a pretty sizable border with China. It's a contested border, by the way. Now, other people think, well, Russia and China have always been friendly. No, that is not the case. During the Cold War, Russia and China actually split off negotiations. And part of Nixon's trip to China was try to create triangulated diplomacy between the United States, China, and Russia. Now, Russia, really quick. Russia is not technologically, their military technology is pretty advanced, but Russia as a whole, their economy is not that strong. Their chief reserve or their chief exports would be natural gas and oil. And of course, Biden, they keep on talking about how bad Trump was on Russia when in fact, Trump sanctioned the hell out of Russia. He also bombed the hell out of Syria, which by the way, Russia's air base was right next door. Russia is an actual ally of Syria. But yet, what's the first thing Biden does? He gives Vladimir Putin a list of targets not to touch, when you should have been saying, look, dude, don't touch any friggin' targets, okay? You're not allowed to touch our country, and if you do, we're going to respond. And you're not going to like our response, and it's going to be pretty bad, okay? But yet he also lifted restrictions off North too. So now Germany and Eastern Europe is getting all their oil from Russia, while at the same time he cut our pipeline here, the Keystone Pipeline, which goes into Canada. So please, if you have any thoughts where you're thinking, well, Biden's tough on Russia. You're sadly mistaken. I mean, I don't know what world you're living in, but Biden is extremely weak on Russia. He's always been very, very weak. So right now what Biden is doing is he's playing the card of, well, I'm going to humble on Russia because they're the weaker country. Well, in reality, Russia is the weaker country militarily. They did get stronger in anticipation of possible invasions in the area like the Ukraine, Azerbaijan, Armenia. But the reason why I think we're screwed either way is this here. Now, let me go ahead and throw this out here. With the Ukraine, right beside it sits a sea. That sea is called the Black Sea. I just mentioned how Russia had a lot of rivers, and of course they have 12 time zones. What Russia does not have is warm water ports. Russia still has a relatively sizable Navy. It's not as powerful of a Navy because they're just now starting to get back technologically advanced. Like I said, Russia's military is trying to rebuild itself back up to Soviet standard levels. Now, something else too, and this right here goes to Tim Pool's fear-mongering. You see, I'm here with a much more rational, more nuanced take because Tim Pool, let's face it, he panics when he sees stuff like this. He talked about a comment that Vladimir Putin said that he felt that the Soviet Union was the greatest, the collapse of the Soviet Union was the greatest disaster in the 20th century. That's actually not what Putin said. What Vladimir Putin actually said was it was the greatest geopolitical disaster, meaning that it was mishandled from the start. Now, people say that he wants to revive the Soviet Union. Well, I don't think he wants to revive it under the banner of communism. Putin is very, very much nationalist, and the Russian economy is not exactly a communist economy. And right now, they don't really have an economy outside their natural gas and oil. I mean, the population is getting sicker and sicker and sicker, starting to die off. So right now what Putin is doing is he's trying to buff up his military to try to get some type of jolt in his economy. And one of the things that they're going to need to do, because you guys have probably already seen the ads that we released here, our military ads about the woke ads and crap like that right there, Russia's not doing that. They're trying to intensify the training. Well, the reason why is because Russia is looking at the situation where they're looking at how many oil partners they can have. You see, Russia right now wants to deal with Iran. They also want to do, all you got to do is just look at a map of that area of the country and look at who actually borders Russia to the south. You've got Iran right down there. You've got Turkey. By the way, Turkey, of course, if you guys understand Bible prophecy, you know that the Gog and Magog scenario, Turkey joins Russia. Turkey's been trying to get to the EU for a while. The EU does not want that because if they took Turkey in, all of a sudden the European Union's population would go from 90% European to all the way down to about 78%, which means that you have about 22% of that population is going to be Islamic or Muslim. Something else, too, to consider is that it is not in the best interest of the United States to fight a war over Ukraine. Now, really quick, I will tell you what I would do if I was the president, and I'll do that right at the end of this video. Russia's looking at the port in the Black Sea. This is the reason why they went down to the Crimea. This is the reason why they went down to the Crimea back in, I think it was 2014. All right, they went into Georgia back in 2008. By the way, he went into Georgia in 2008 because Putin knew that Bush was leaving. He felt Bush would stand up to him. Imagine if Putin had done that in 2006. Bush would have stood up to him. Bush was on his way out. If you guys recall, the whole finger wag and the facial expressions at the 2008 Olympics in Beijing, that right there was something that Bush was not happy with. I think the 2008 Olympics were in Beijing. Somebody correct me in the comment section. But here's the thing. Putin right now knows he's got one or two things. He can put the focus on the Ukraine. You see, now me personally, with all the troops that are amassing at the Ukraine, I don't think he's going for the Ukraine. I think his real objective is to provide what we call a bit of a feint, going to the Crimea, get a hold of the Black Sea. Of course, that is Ukraine, but not going completely into Ukraine. Now, of course, the Ukrainians are saying this would be a massacre if they came in there. Okay, that right there could be a double-edged sword because I think if you have a strong enough military, which the Ukraine is actually building a giant military, they could actually put up a formidable defense against Russia, but I don't think that's the overall end game. You see, I think what Russia wants to do is they want to demonstrate, and then they want to move around to the Azerbaijan and Armenia, possibly Georgia again, which, by the way, are countries that are further out of the way of our control, and try to get Turkey to turn on us. You see, we have a military base in Turkey. Putin would love for nothing more than to have a weak, feeble-minded president like Joe Biden pull our personnel out of Turkey and put them, say, in Italy. Also, something else, too, is that the more radical members of NATO are one of the United States to get involved. I personally don't think we are. Now, do I think we should get involved in Turkey, in Ukraine? Actually, I don't think we should. You see, this is what I meant when I say we're screwed either way, because I think Putin's building up a military that can actually go into the Middle East as a whole, and, of course, the southern steps of those nations. Now, here is what I would do, a President Claymore would do. During the Trump administration, and by the way, I'll end the video on this note here. During the Trump administration, we were sending a lot of weapons to the Ukraine. Here's how I would do this. First of all, if Putin, and like I said, I personally don't think he's going to invade Ukraine. I think this is a giant thing for him to invade other nations. Like I said, Azerbaijan, Georgia, getting back involved in Dagestan. I didn't mention that one earlier, but getting back involved in those countries, so that way he has a much more secure route to Iran and their pipeline. So that way it's all about oil. Okay, it's all about oil. Also, something else too is that the way Biden runs things, they would shut us out of their oil because Joe, of course, does not want to actually use his own oil. But I think you guys understand where I'm coming from on this one. What I would do is send more weapons. I would also send probably, I don't know, maybe 500 more advisors, special forces. Try to train the people, the civilians. Send conventional weapons. Send AR-15. Send stockpile AK-47. Send ammo. Don't send any tanks or any heavy equipment. Just send enough to actually train people from, I would say, December of this year. Of course, it's cold in Ukraine right now, but I would say if you did it now, let's just say you sent troops there now, or you sent advisors there now. What you do is you train the populaces, you train the militias, you try to get them to assimilate with the military, so that way you can create separate fronts. This time, by the time you get done with about May of next year, you can pull those people out. Okay. Now remember something: if U.S. personnel are there, Putin's likely to not invade, okay? And something else, too, that needs to be thrown out there. Because like I said, Tim Pool wants to get fear-mongering. If this thing goes kinetic, let's just say it was us fighting the Russians in Ukraine, we would beat the Russians pretty easily. I mean, Russia's military is not as powerful as you think. But Russia could beat Ukraine. But if you train those people, the Ukraine could defend themselves against Russia. You see what I'm saying? But as I said before, the end game is not all of Ukraine. The end game is the Crimea, to try to get a hold of the Black Sea, so that way he can create a port system. So that way he's got a warm water port. The true aim is to get not just that one there, but eventually the port around the Caspian Sea. This way he's got two areas where he can get warm water ports, and he can actually move products in and out across rivers and across the world, at least in that area. Also, another thing too to go on top of that is, like I said before, the idea is to try to create some type of actual pathway to get him more towards the center portions of Asia, of Southern Asia, so that way he's got direct pipelines to Iran and possibly direct pipelines to, I don't know, maybe a direct link to Syria and Turkey. Like I said, I think this is mostly a feint. They are amassing troops on the border, but this could all just be a show of force. This all could just be a demonstration. I mean, those troops have been there for a while. What are they waiting for? I think that there's the problem, and I think we're screwed either way, at least economically and militarily from a certain point of view. But that does not mean that I still would not send the advisors there to train people to get them ready. And I'd have them be there for anywhere between, like I said, if you send them after Christmas, let's say you send them on December 28th, December 29th, get them out of there before June. You got 6 months to train people, arm them, get them ready for a fight just in case. By the way, Ukraine, if they plan it well, they could defend themselves very well using their own terrain, and it might not be as bad as you might think. As a matter of fact, Russians might even lose the strength, might even lose the stomach to fight after a few months, because Russia hasn't exactly been in a war in a while. And one more thing, and I'm gonna go ahead and end the video on this note right here. If you think that the American people who were tired of Iraq 1.5 years in, if you think they were tired of Afghanistan, they started protesting 1.5 years in, what do you think it would look like if we fought Russia? Like I said before, I believe we would beat Russia pretty handily. But just because we beat them pretty handily does not mean the casualty count would not be pretty high. Guys, John Claymore, Commander 33 here. If you like this content, hit the like button, subscribe, share the video. I figured I would go ahead and make a video about this. At the end of the day, I think this is mostly saber rattling and possibly a decoy for another operation that's further away from the Ukraine. I just wanted to go ahead and throw that out there, guys. Once again, hit that like button, subscribe, share the video, sign up in the comment section, and I will see you guys later.